All right. Hey, everybody. We're live once again for the greatest of all time argument, part two. Now, as I understand it, um, today's part will be mostly focused on the eye test. Eye test is basically me looking at film and then describing to you what I saw based on that film. Now, this is a disadvantage to the older players, the players before the 80s, where there wasn't as much film based on them compared to today's players like LeBron, and Kobe, who have a clear advantage because there's more film of them. There's more highlight tapes. There's more everything. So some of the people's will be really short, and some other people's will be really long. That being said, we'll start from the two ring category because there's a lot of two ring. There's a lot of two ring players. 5 2 ring players on this list. So I'm gonna start from them and work my way back up. If you don't remember who's on the list of players that I picked, you should go to check out the first part because I give a detailed list around. I think it's around the 5 minute mark. It starts the 5 minute mark. So that being said, we'll start off with Isaiah Thomas. Now, Isaiah Thomas's film is basically it's mostly just him dribbling the ball up court, giving good looks to Joe Dumars, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, pick and rolls, a lot of pick and rolls, a lot of little crossovers, little nice little layups. He doesn't dunk. Isaiah Thomas doesn't dunk. Um, but what the guy can do is push through a lot of pain because he was one of the smaller guys, smaller point guards in the league at the time that he played. So he's a little. I think imagine like a little dog, so to say, just like running back and forth between people where the kids trying to chase him, but the kids are trying to chase the dog, but he's darting in. Little dog just darting in and out. Think of it. That's basically what Isaiah Thomas was. He was dodging in and out of the in the half court set. He was basically doing that. And until he got his Achilles injury, he was doing that at perfect time. Um, Basically, he was just at the point where he had a mid-range jumper. Like I guess we could start from the 0 feet to 3 feet range and then move out to the 3 point line based on skill sets on offense, and then I'll go defense, and then that'll be that. So close to the basket, he had a nice little layup finish. Uh, early in his career, his layup finish was a little rocky, but he somewhat he after the first 2 or 3 years, he got a nice little finger roll, nice little layup package going on there. He's a decent mid range game. There are players who probably have a better mid range game than him, but he had an okay mid range from what I saw from the videos. He had an okay three ball, but he wasn't like a premier three ball shooter. But he could hit it if he needed to. His passing's good. He has a very good passing IQ, especially early on in his career. Like especially like up until like 1992 when like he got the Achilles and the whole thing just fell apart. He has a pretty good IQ on how that happens. So it seems like he has a lot of IQ for just for the point guard position. You're supposed to have that type of IQ in general, but for especially a point guard of his caliber, he had a pretty good passing IQ. Like, okay, I need to get the ball here at this point. Defensively, he's a really good defender. He had to defend people like Magic Johnson, so you had to be a really good defender to defend him. Now he wouldn't stay on Magic Johnson because Magic Johnson's a 6'9" point guard, but for a little guy his size, he had a lot of good things going for him when it came to defense. He has a nice on ball steal. That's basically really good for someone of his stature to just be able to poke the ball away. He doesn't reach very often, and that's the mark of a truly good defender. Like, he doesn't reach, and that's something that should be taken into account. He doesn't block shots. Like, he doesn't rebound. He doesn't block shots. He doesn't need to really rebound because he had a whole bunch of bigs on his team, so he didn't have to rebound. His rebounding wasn't really that great, and neither was his blocking shots because, again, he's a little guy. But his on-ball defense was solid. He didn't reach that often, and if he did, he was usually poking the ball away. So it shows that he had a very good defensive IQ as well. So next, we have Hakeem Olajuwon. Number one in blocks. So we'll start for him. We'll start on defense. We'll just do that as a pattern. Defensively, Hakeem was solid. You weren't going to get this man up in the air to pump fake or whatever. Maybe early in his career, like his rookie or sophomore seasons, you probably could have did, but after that, you wasn't doing it. But he's a very good shot blocker. He's also a very good at picking off passes and stealing the ball. Very good defensive, very excellent defensive IQ. He moves up and down the floor really well too. His on-ball defense was really good. There's very few players that he couldn't really guard. Like, I think Kareem would probably be one of the people he couldn't guard, and Shaq was probably another one that he couldn't like guard specifically. But outside of those two players, there was really no one else he couldn't guard. And even with Shaq, for instance, he would block some of Shaq's shots. Shaq was just really powerful, and Kareem was really a finesse player. And in that case, Kareem's skyhook, again, unstoppable shot. You can't block that. But he was really good at keeping Kareem in front of him so he wouldn't just try to go into the paint all willy-nilly. Now, on offense, Hakeem was solid. Was a solid offensive player. He would get you the 28 and 10 or 28 and 15 every single night in terms of points and rebounds. He's also not that bad of a passer either. I don't think, if I remember correctly, he wasn't in the top. He wasn't in the top 25 in passing, but he was within the top 50, which is good for a big man. Which is really good for a big man. Within the first 10 feet of the basket, he had the dream shake. He made his own move. It was a move that he made up, and it was very, very well done. It was fluid. It was almost unstoppable. Like, you could stop it if you could predict which way he was going, but for the most part, he would get you, and then that would be it. He had a little hook. He had a hook. It wasn't like Kareem's hook. It was a nice little hook. He had a post fade. He had, like I said, the dream shake. So he had a drop step. He had different moves to get you out of place on offense. And if he couldn't get to you on offense or the defense sucked in, he has the offensive IQ to pass it out to a three-point shooter, or pass it out to a mid-range shooter, pass it out to Robert Horry, pass it out to Kenny Smith. So he had the IQ to know that, okay, I have this person on my team. If I get doubled, kick it out to him. That's an easy 3 points. So now we will look at Wilt Chamberlain. The very few moments I saw Wilt Chamberlain, he was a monster on the offensive side. He averaged 50 points in the season. Now, granted, the 50 points was during an era where there was like 9 to 10 teams in the league. So take that for a grain of salt. Also, the different time period. People weren't as big as him. He was he was more of like a 90s center playing in a 60s era. So he was getting all the points, all the rebounds, all the boards, everything. So, like I said, he has a little hook. Again, it's not Kareem's hook. And the reason why I keep bringing Kareem's name up is because, like, his hook was unstoppable. He could back you down. he didn't have a very good post fade. We'll say that. He didn't have a very good post fade. But he will back you all the way down to the basket and then dunk on you. So he had like maybe a couple moves, couple guaranteed solid moves. He didn't have that many, but he'll out rebound you. He will out rebound you offensively. If he misses his own shot, like, oh, I'll just grab this and then just put it back up, and then that's the end of that. He was stronger than everybody else on the court. A lot of people had problems dealing with. Even the best defensive players, centers at the time, like Bill Russell, had problems dealing with him. Assist wise, he's not very good. He doesn't have a high assist count at all, and it's really funny because when I just looked for it, and I just find it that I just found out from just watching a couple of footage things that the only reason he would pass the ball out is if he was triple teamed, and that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, you invite a triple team, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I just find that just based on this offensive footage alone, like, because I couldn't really find any defensive footage, but I'm going off of what reports would have said about him. Like, this, mind you, this is before the defensive stat era, so that's before the seven. That was before most of his playing days was before 75s. He introduced all that stuff in yet, but based on what I could tell, he could block shots. His defensive positioning wasn't very good, but he could get he would get like blocks if they were count. Next up, Jerry West. Jerry West was a decent on-ball defender from what I saw. He was an excellent on-ball. He was a decent on-ball, good on-ball defender, and he could force the player to make a perimeter shot, because back then there weren't that many. There wasn't a 3-point line for most of his career until like the 70s, and there wasn't, like, you would just be making twos the entire time. So the mindset of the 60s and early 70s was you keep him out. The further out he is, the harder the shot is. So the harder the shot is, that's what we want them to do. We don't want to have him to kick it into the big man. Kick it into the big man, it's over. It's an easy bucket. So he's really good at keeping people outside and forcing the passes around the perimeter. I would say that if he had a couple of steals. If steals had counted back then, I think he would have had a little bit more steals than what he would have based on that alone. On offensive side, I mean, he's called Mr. Clutch, and based on the offensive highlights that I did see, they were really good. I think he had a good mid range. I think he has the range of a 3-pointer before 3-pointers even really existed, so he could have done that. I don't think he. I think in retrospect, he probably would have been like at the very least a 25% 3-point shooter, which back then would have probably been okay, but now it's bad. But he has the range to make it. He has an excellent driving game. He's a smooth runner for someone in the 70s. A lot of 70s players, from what I could tell, like except for like a couple people like Kareem and West and Baylor before he got injured, and Bernard King before he got injured, they don't have as smooth a transition as the players in the 80s, 90s, and today currently have. But he had one of the smoothest run games of the 70s, 60s, and 70s. He does, and he looks locked in and focused on the offensive end. It's like it's his home. So next up, Kevin Durant. Yes, and if you weren't at the first one, Kevin Durant is on this list. For that sake, I would say Kevin Durant offensively, one of the best shooters we've seen so far. His buddy Steph Curry is later on this list. I think is the best shooter in NBA history, but Kevin Durant is I would say he's second or third on that list, shooting wise. He's 7 feet tall, 6'7" wingspan. Easily gets to the rim. He has a nice glide to the rim for a dunk. He has a post game that he recently developed, and it's looking to be really good. Shoot over everything. He shoot over a heavy contest. He's a really good mid-range game, a really good 3-point range. He has extended the range across the 3-point line. He has a good basketball IQ for passing the ball. He's like, okay, I need to pass the ball here. I need to pass the ball to Curry in the corner or Russell Westbrook when he's playing with the Thunder. Like, he slowly gets better and better every single year on offense. He is a decent offensive rebound. His defensive rebounding is better, but his offensive rebound is all right. But he's not going to be really boxing anyone out. He doesn't have he's not like LeBron James, where LeBron's mostly strength based. Kevin Durant's more of a finesse player, but like he doesn't have the strength to box out somebody his size. He could box out LeBron if he gets the right positioning, but he's not the best offensive rebounder for his position. Now, defensively, Kevin Durant is a good lockdown defender. He is not Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is an excellent lockdown defender. But for his position, he can defend his position above average. He has an excellent defensive IQ. He knows how to rotate. He knows how to put his hand in the passing lane. He reaches a little too much, I think. And I think that's what would be a negative for him, is that he reaches a little too much in some of his plays that he does. Especially like early on in his career, he did a lot of it, and he's toned it down. He's pulled it back ever since he's gotten more used to winning on a winning team. But he still has that habit of reaching a little on a defensive play, so that may come back. He can block shots at the rim. He's an excellent shot blocker. He can defend everyone up to maybe a power forward. I don't think he could defend a center very well, even though he's big enough to defend a center. I think because with a lot of centers, it's mostly power unless they're pulling up from three. So I don't think Kevin Durant has the type of power to stop someone like LaMarcus Aldridge or Dwight Howard in his prime. I don't think he has the power to stop any of them, but I'm pretty sure for a power forward, he guarded Kevin Love. Like, he's guarded LeBron James, he's guarded Kevin Love. He can do those things, and that would be fine. So now, moving into the 3 category, we have LeBron James. Look, on defense, LeBron James has taken off a lot more plays because he feels like he has to, because he has to be the main scorer on offense. And that's fine. I get it. James Harden does the same exact thing, except he's much worse at defense, but we're not going to talk about that. That's a topic for a different video. LeBron James is an excellent on-ball defender when he chooses to play it. He's an excellent on-ball defender. Knows how to get. He has a very high defensive basketball IQ. People don't mention this a lot because more than recently he doesn't play that much defense, but he has the IQ to be a lockdown defender if he chooses to be a lockdown defender. Just like how some other players are told that they can't do this when they actually can. LeBron James is an excellent on-ball defender. He puts his hand in the right passing lanes. He doesn't reach that often, if at all. And when he does reach, it's usually to poke the ball free or to break up the play enough to where it either forces a turnover or at the very least breaks down the play so they have to reset the whole play over. He's an excellent chase down block artist. Purely blocking, I would say he's above average for his position, but his chase down blocks are amazing. It stops fast, breaks cold. It's one of the reasons why he has that badge on 2K, because they gave him that badge. But for the most part, his chase down blocks are very good. It's one of the reasons why he won the third championship, because that chase down block on Andre Iguodala was fantastic. He runs smooth. Like, he runs like a locomotive train if it was on skates. Essentially, that's what that is. And when we go to offense, he's an excellent rim finisher. He's become a good shooter. I would not say he is above average shooting. Like, he's a above average 3-point shooter for his position, but it's not by much. It's like, he's not Kevin Durant. Like, he's not going to shoot like Kevin Durant does. He can. He can do it especially if he's on fire and he's just shooting the lights out, like in game 1 of the finals this year. But he's not on like Durant or Curry's level when it comes to 3-point shooting. Mid-range game, he's got a post game. His post game is phenomenal. One of the best post games from a small forward I've ever seen. And he's at a good above average mid-range game. His best attribute on offense is being a rim finisher. He's a very athletic guy. You're not stopping him going to the rim. And if you try to, you're either getting dunked on or you're going to give him extra free throw at the line. That's how good of a dunker and finisher that LeBron is. He also has a very high basketball offensive IQ. So this man has a very good basketball IQ in general. When we see him looking for passes, doing flashy no-look passes, it's because he's confident enough in himself to do flashy no-look passes to his teammates and get it open and have them make the shot. He's a good offense. He's a good offensive rebounder. I would say he's above average for a position, like Kevin Durant. Not Kevin Durant. He's above average for his position. He's better than Kevin Durant in offensive rebounding, which is funny because you would think that the taller guy would be better, but it's not. I would also say that because of his strength, it makes guarding him a lot harder on players. Even the best defensive players, his strength makes it harder to guard. So next, Steph Curry. Offensively, he's a decent finisher. He's more of an acrobatic type of finisher. He's not like a strong finisher like LeBron. He's an excellent mid-range game, but a even better 3-point game. And I find that's a little concerning. To me, that's a little concerning, considering the fact that his 3-point shot is much better than his mid-range game. And the fact that he can shoot threes from like half court at a consistent basis and make it, that's unbelievable. If you guys were watching game 2 of the finals where he dribbled the ball behind the back, bounced it off his leg and just chucked it and it went in, like, you can't practice that type of shot. Like, I mean, you could, but unless it was in that specific situation, it wouldn't be any useful. But I digress. His shooting is phenomenal. He's one of the best shooters in the league, period. And he's an underrated passer. Some people don't give him like the same credit like they would give Chris Paul or James Harden or Russell Westbrook or LeBron James even for being a great passer. He's a good passer. I would say he's not Chris Paul or Magic Johnson, but he's a really good passer. And if he wants to average 9 assists a game, I'm pretty sure he could. Rebounding, he's not a rebounder. Okay, Steph Curry is not a rebounder. He averages the average amount for his position, so he's not a rebounder. So we can get that out of the way. He's a smooth runner, and he can stop and pop from wherever on that half of the court. Like that's absolutely insane. Defensively, he's not the liability everyone thinks he is. He's not the liability everyone thinks he's not. Steph Curry actually at one point was leading the league in steals. Like a couple years ago, he had like was top 5 in steals. Maybe that's just due to positions and where he was on the court, putting his hand in the passing lane. He has a decent defensive IQ. It's not LeBron James defensive IQ or Michael Jordan defensive IQ, but it's up there. But it's a decent one. It's like slightly above average. But the problem is he doesn't play it to the level that he could. So is that he does know how to put his hand in the passing lane. He reaches a little too much, and he doesn't block shots at all. There's no chase down blocks or anything like that. But we could say that while you wouldn't want to leave him on an island by himself against maybe the team's best player, like you could put him on like someone like what's a good point guard to use? Like you could put him on not Chris Paul. You could put him on someone that like I guess you could say you could put him on an above average point guard. He would do fine. He would be okay. Chris Paul, he may need some help with. Ben Simmons, he's going to definitely need help with him because Ben Simmons is a 6'10" point guard. But then again, it's basically based on what I'm seeing. Like he has decent movement on ball defense, but he's not the greatest defender. Larry Bird, defensively, he is a lockdown defender. Larry Bird is a lockdown defender. He puts his hand in the right passing lane. He reaches a lot. And it's something that some Boston fans might not want to admit, but Larry Bird does reach. And I find it funny that he does reach, but he still got a decent amount of steals and a couple of good blocks. So I would say he's a very elite defender, especially in the 80s where defense was prided over offense in some cases. But on offense, he also had a very high defensive IQ. But on offense, Larry Bird, what people would say, he is literally an assassin. Like he is like Larry Bird is a very, very big assassin. And he can shoot a very good 3-ball. Like he's not Steph Curry. Well, we'll just say this. He's not Steph Curry. But for the time period he basically was the best 3-point shooter of his age. He's a really good finisher. I would say he's above average finisher. He has a good mid range. He's a very good 3-point game. His mid range is actually better than his 3-point game, which isn't surprising. He has a very good post game, and his offensive IQ is much higher than his defensive IQ, which in and of itself would be a scary task for anybody, really. So there's Larry Bird. Shaq is one of the most powerful centers ever. He is. His back to the basket game is very good. Like he has excellent post game where he had like a little hook, a nice drop step into a dunk, a nice post spin into a dunk. Like he has at least 3 go-to moves that were solid all around. Then he had a couple ones. He had a little bit of a mid range, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't like if he shot from mid range, it would be like just under 40%. For a big man, that's actually not bad, but he could do better. He has no 3-point shot because he never developed one. He never needed to. But he until he got to like Miami, where he got really big, he could transition the floor very well. Oh, I guess I could say to the Lakers. When he got to like the 4th year with the Lakers, until he got to that part, not the 4th year, what am I say? Until he got to like 2002, 2003 season, where he could actually move up and down the floor very well. And he has I would say he had a high basketball IQ. Some people that's a debatable topic. Some people said that Shaq's IQ was mostly about him and his stats, but he actually had a very good IQ. He knows that, oh, well, there's only a couple of centers I actually need to prepare for. Everyone else is everyone else. I can easily get my numbers on them, but I know who to prepare for. Some people will say that's cockiness, but in reality, Shaq was just that strong. But when he got heavier, that's when everything started taking a toll on him. He started getting those injuries. He started running less, and his game became a little bit more foot still. So rebounding, he had an okay offensive rebounding. He wasn't that spectacular, but on the defensive end, he was very good at boxing out, grabbing the rebound. Defensively, he had a very above average on ball defensive IQ. He also knew how to block shots. He actually has a very high shot block, and that was actually surprising me. I didn't think he blocked that many shots, but I mean, I was watching him, so I didn't think he blocked that many shots. But again, I didn't watch every single game, so he knew how to put his hand in the passing lane. It's just that he wouldn't come up with steals that often. Again, Shaq was more focused on strength than finesse. That's Shaq. Kobe Bryant. Defensively, Kobe Bryant is a lockdown defender. He has a decent amount of blocks, but not in the top 25. He has good steals. He has a nice on-ball defense. He knows how to put his hand in the passing lane, knows how to reach at the appropriate time. Early in his career, he didn't do that often, but later and later in his career, when he got more intelligence into his arsenal, into his repertoire, he was able to put his hand in the passing lane and do everything he needed to do in order to get the ball back on offense. He has a nice smooth transitions when it comes to boxing out for a defensive rebound. He didn't average that many rebounds. Shooting guards and point guards rarely average that many rebounds unless they're averaging a triple-double. But he was really good. I also like to think that on offense, Kobe was, until he got older, he was an elite dunker. He was an elite finisher at the rim. He has a very excellent post game. People say he stole it from Michael Jordan, but he had a post game, okay? Even if it was just mostly a post fade, he had one. He had an excellent mid-range game. That was one of his best features, actually. We're going to point on that. His mid-range game. His mid-range game was very good. Like, you're not stopping him if he shoots a mid-range. That's it. It's basically a done deal. That it's a knockdown shot. His three-pointer was okay, but it wasn't like, I would say he's an average to slightly above average three-point shooter. I would say that. His passing, he actually was in the top 25, top 50 in assists. So for the people who said that Kobe was a ball hog, he has assists. He has the numbers to back that up. So he's not as much of a ball hog as you think he is. Sometimes he just took over a game and that was it. Until he got all his injuries, like later in his career, he had smooth transitions, smooth finishes, excellent ball releases. So, and then Tim Duncan on the offensive end. I'm looking at the time. Sorry, guys, I'm speeding up, but I'm looking at the time. I don't want to keep you here forever and bore you. Tim Duncan offensively was a very good offensive player. He knew how to he had the offensive rebound knowledge to box out and get offensive rebounds, put him right back up. He had an excellent post game with 3 or 4 different moves, including the dream shake that he turned into his own little thing. Post fade, he could face shoot and shoot over you. He had an excellent mid range. He didn't really shoot threes, but he could shoot threes. He didn't really shoot threes though. His 3-point percentage is 0.25 or something. But when he shot anywhere inside the 3-point line, it looked natural. It looked like he was supposed to do this. He's not a fast break big. He could he could help on a fast break. And he has an excellent basketball IQ. I would say he is one of the top 5 basketball IQs ever, because he knew how to pick and roll into anything. He knew where his team is going to be. He was an excellent assist of the basketball. And on defense, Tim Duncan, while he's not an elite shot blocker, he can block shots. I would say he's just under elite shot blocking. Just under. Hakeem is Hakeem, Dikembe, and then after maybe 2, 3 or 4 more players, then you have him. He also has an excellent defensive basketball IQ. He knows how to rotate. He has a smooth transition, and that's basically it for Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan had an excellent all-around type of game. And yes, like I said in the first game, I'm a little biased to Tim Duncan. All right, let's get that out of the way. But there are some things he couldn't do. He's not an excellent on-ball stealer. He has to play the passing lane. He can't steal the ball. It's an on-ball unless the person messes up. All right, we're gonna do that. Magic Johnson on defense could guard all 5 positions. Legitimately guard all 5 positions. It looks like I'm going to have to make a part 3 of this because I think someone's knocking on our door. Well, that's it for me, everybody. Alvin1777 signing out.